All right, this is complicated. So, Paddy the Baddy is talking with Tom Aspinall, and this was a very interesting interview because it was two dudes that were just having a conversation that happened to be recorded. Like there was nothing off limits. Paddy brings up somewhere it comes up about Tom's eye and that his eye is still bugging him. And Tom even saying, I don't know. I don't know when I'll be able to be back. And this is on the heels of comments made by Michael Bisping, who dealt with an eye injury, who Tom respects, and Michael told Tom, don't rush this thing. I had an eye injury, I rushed this thing, and I have a disability to this day. Okay, hold that thought. So Paddy and Tom are talking. And Paddy brings up that Piera versus Gane for an interim belt would be interesting in the absence of Tom. Does that surprise you? And are you picturing this? Paddy brings this up to Tom. Paddy suggests to Tom, his buddy, his guest, that they interim your belt. Okay. Now, you know Paddy didn't mean offense by this. Paddy's getting ready to fight for an interim belt himself, but I'm just sharing. You could see where that's a little awkward, right? So what is Tom's response going to be? Tom says, you know what? That's an interesting fight. Piera versus Ciryl. That's an interesting fight. Okay. So now Paddy has asked the question that I thought he would never ask, and Tom has now answered the question in a way that I would have guessed he never would have answered. It was very fascinating. But now that we've got these details, because that does make a level of sense, right? If Tom can't come back, none of us would support. I would love that. Thank you so much, Ethan. I would really support the idea that we don't strip Tom. I think we can all agree on that. This eye poke business is not Tom's fault. Like if any champion is going to be able to be given a moment, it's him. If there's any champion in history whose belt we had to look at doing something with and we're going to give grace to, it's him. Okay. So we're all agreeing that it's an interim belt. Okay. If we're going to do an interim belt, it would seem that it has to involve Ciryl. Because it's already been stated that Ciryl's next fight will be for the belt. It was just supposed to be a rematch with Tom. But can we see where it would be very hard, if we were to do an interim belt, can we see where it would be very hard to exclude Ciryl? But if we don't exclude Ciryl, we don't have the ability to include Jon Jones. And isn't Jones versus Piera the fight that we all want? Isn't Jones versus Piera the main event that we all want? Isn't Jones versus Piera the fantasy fight that's got one small problem? It's a small problem. But to do a fight that Joe Rogan himself called the biggest fight in the history of humanity, it sure would be helpful if we had a belt. Right? It's very hard, particularly when we're discussing White House, and this doesn't have to be at the White House, but if we're going to be in line with the narrative that's going around right now, if we're going to do Jones versus Piera at the White House, and we're hearing there's going to be 7 world titles contested that night, we're not going to do them last? We're not going to do them as the main event? Well, how would we do them as the main event if there wasn't a belt? For one, and then if we don't, where do you put that match? Do you put it as the co-main event? Well, that would mean you're still putting it after a title fight. Would you put it as the first fight of the night? of the main card? Well, that would still mean you're putting it after a title fight. If we're going to do 7 title fights, that means we're going to have undercards that have world title fights. I mean, do you see the problem? So where we'd have to exclude Ciryl, or we have to accept we're not getting Jones. And I don't believe that one. However, there is something going on with Jones. The fact that Jones is not in the rankings, I have brought this to you guys. I have brought this to Ariel. I have brought this to other people. I can't get a damn bit of traction with this. Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to see anything weird about this but me. So this is a drum that I either need to beat harder to get my point across, or I just need to quit beating. But for Jon Jones to be under contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship makes him eligible to be ranked per the rules. And the rules, or rather the rankings committee, does not believe that Jon Jones is a top 15 fighter in a division. I'm not even talking pound for pound. They don't believe he's a top 15 fighter in the division. We are going on 12 weeks, 12 different sets of rankings that all have one thing in common. They don't believe that Jon Jones is a top 15 fighter. And the fact that he's not in the rank, it means something, guys. I don't know what it means. I have my own guess, but it's nothing more than a guess. And I'm not really that strong on it. It's just my guess, which is that his name is not being submitted. Now, again, per policy, not per rules, the only way a signed athlete's name would not be submitted for consideration is if they were quietly dealing with a failed drug test. Jon is not. Jon is not. So, why isn't he ranked? Do they either believe that there's 15 guys that can beat Jon Jones? All because he took 8 days off. He was the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. He was the number 1 ranked heavyweight. He was the heavyweight champion who took 8 days of a hiatus. And all of a sudden, isn't in the top 15, because it's very hard to give a guy a title fight if he's not ranked in the top 15. Very hard to justify giving a guy a title fight if he's not in the top 15. So this takes a few twists and turns. And if we were to do an interim title fight, is that the match? Alex Pereira, who has never competed at heavyweight, walks right into a title fight, and he does it against Ciryl? And if Alex were to win, he takes on Aspinall, which again is great, but there would then be no way to get wiggle room to get Jones in there. Right? There would be no way. At least not for a whole nother calendar year, of which apparently the clock isn't even starting until the White House event in June. So now you're talking about a year and a half from right now. In a best case scenario, that would essentially retire Jon Jones. And I don't believe that that is the right guess, the right determination that we should come to. So, what is? If you're going to interim title the heavyweight division, with what 2 athletes do you contest?